Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy to see you once more. We are very happy to be here in the Aurum Consultants podcast. Today, the 19th of September. It's a crisp, cool day. It has begun very well, and we believe the topics we shall discuss today will also be invigorating. With me today is our expert in HR issues here at Zipporah Kuria. Zippy, please acknowledge our viewers.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, our audience. Welcome today to this podcast, and we hope that we will learn together and we will enjoy the discussion.
Awesome. Now, we've been carrying a number of podcasts in the last few months, and we've gotten very encouraging feedback from our viewers, our listeners who have been listening and logging in and discussing the various aspects, especially in regards to pertinent issues that business people, entrepreneurs, and business executives have been facing, and even employers and employees have been facing while been facing during this pandemic season. And we thank God that things are improving out there. And now, today we would like to discuss something that that a lot of people think about, both from an employer or an employee perspective. And this is concerning employee performance. The issue is employee performance. Where do we start? So we want to discuss about employee performance. If you're listening to us and you'd like to post your comments are welcome. Please bring them on. We would like to hear your feedback, even as we continue this discussion today. Now, Zippy, you could tell us where I think we could start by asking, what is employee performance in short?
Well, I think today's discussion is a very important discussion for both employers and employees, because I feel sometimes this is a subject that is sometimes misunderstood, sometimes brings about a lot of conflict between employees and employers, where employers will feel this employee is not performing. So let's try and address this in the basic of the basics for us to understand what it means when we talk about performance. And in terms of employee performance, basically this refers to how an employee fulfills their job duties, their responsibilities, what they've been given by the employer. And it refers again to the effectiveness, the quality of work that this employee is giving as an output at the end of the day. So it's a total sum of all that. Basically, what is the employee doing on a daily basis to just get their job done? Are they doing it in the right way? Are they doing it in a quality way? And is the outcome what the employer is actually expecting at the end of the day? So in a very basic way, it refers to what the employee is doing on a daily basis to get their jobs done, and in a most effective, in the best quality possible way.
Okay, so one would say, is it very subjective? Who decides what has been performed? I know we will discuss a bit more about the role of the employer on employee performance, but can we say that it starts by, first of all, describing the roles and responsibilities of an employee by an employer? Can we say that?
Yeah. Yes, very true. Of course, the roles have to be very clearly defined. And like you're saying, performance can be very subjective if it's not clear what the expectations are from both employer and the employee. I can be told that I'm not performing, but am I clear of what is expected of me? Do I even know what my job description is? And this all goes back to when we employ someone, we induct them into the company. How do we induct them into the system? How do we get them to settle down for them to understand what their role is, to understand what the culture of the organization is in terms of performance? Because sometimes I can come into an organization and I'm a very good performer, but I come and find a culture that is not very good, and it kind of weighs down on what I do as a person, and I get somehow submerged into the culture, and I don't end up actually performing like I expected. So I think from the word go, when you're recruiting, is very clear. It's very good to be very clear on what your expectations are as the employer, and for this employee to weigh and see, am I going to be able to meet these expectations before even I sign on the dotted line?
Uh-huh. All right. So it means, as an employee, if I get into a company, uh, and probably my qualifications, my experience, whatever it is that have enabled me to get my foot inside that door, then and they have decided, you know what, Anthony, you're pretty good. We like whatever we think you are the ideal candidate, and we want to engage you. So the first thing ought to be a clear guideline of my job title, my role, my job description, who I'm reporting to, what are my performance criteria, yeah, and what is expected of me. That is where we begin. All right.
Yeah, so we start.
Yeah, which leads now to the second question that I
Mhm.
had. What is the role of the employer on employee performance?
Well, the employer has a very huge role in terms of the employee performing, because it's the employer who sets the tempo of the organization. It's the employer who sets the guidelines of what needs to be done, what needs to be achieved. So if from the employer perspective, you're not even clear what the organization stands for or what it is that you're trying to achieve, then your employees will be lost in the process. So if I was to look at this first, I would address it from the employer's perspective. It's not just about serving a customer or making money. What is the purpose of my existence as a company? What are my objectives? What are my KPIs as an employer? What am I looking at achieving at the end of the day as a company? And once you address that question, then it becomes very easy to start now cascading that down to your team members. So from the employer's perspective, we do have a very clear uh, role in terms of setting the tempo of how performance in an organization will end up looking like. You can have a very high performing team, but if you have no clarity of where the organization is going, the truth is no one will be able to perform. And both you and the employee will be very frustrated, because the employee will be feeling, I am not feeling like this is the best organizations to work for. While on the other hand, the employer will be feeling, when I looked at your credentials, it speaks a lot about you, what you have been able to achieve. But you have come here and you're not able to change things around. Now, there are times I've seen employers where, their systems, their processes are a bit of a mess. They don't have very clear systems, and they don't have very clear processes. And an employee who is a professional comes in, and they expect this employee to turn things around and make things work like magic. And this sometimes doesn't work because, like I've said, as a leader in the organization, you need to set the tempo. You need to be very clear what it is that you're trying to achieve as an organization. So there's quite a number of questions I think we need to ask ourselves as employers, and what it is that we want to achieve. Okay.
All right.
One would be, do we have a clear mission and vision as an organization? So
Okay.
you're an employer today and listening to us, do you have a clear vision and mission for your organization? And is this mission broken down in ways the employee can understand? Because it's one thing to have that mission and vision, but do we make it in simple terms that the employee can actually translate it into actionables? The other thing is, again, how do we fit in the employees into this whole plan? So I have a mission, I have a vision. I'm trying to break it down to actionables employee can understand and be able to, have those activities that will work towards achieving this. But the question is, again, are we doing this? Or are we sitting back there and saying, my employees are not performing, but we are not enabling them? The other thing as an employer and the role you have, you must create an enabling environment. Okay? It's one thing to hire me and tell me this is your job. But as an employer, are you creating that enabling environment that is allowing this employee to perform at their best? And an enabling environment would be, do I have an office space where I need to come sit in and work from? If I need to work from home, I have the tools that I need to have for me to be able to get the job done. If I come into an organization, I might be an expert in my field, but I have also to understand how this organization works. I have to understand the nitty-gritties of how things are done here. So how do we settle in our employees to help them understand this is how we operate, so that they can be able to settle in an easier way and be able to do their job. So again, the issue of being an enabler is very critical for an employee to be able to perform. So let's not sit back, not give the employee what it is that they need, and expect them to do magic, okay? So again, things like training. An employee has been given a role. They might not necessarily understand the critical areas of this function. As an employer, again, what effort am I making to ensure this employee is trained? And sometimes we take employee training as an expense. The truth is, and I would want to say this to employers, try employees who are not trained. Try employees who are not ignorant to sell you out there. The truth is, it will be a disaster. So it's better to actually invest in that training, because the output of that will be something great. But if you don't invest in it, then only give what they have. And the truth is, they might have nothing to offer. So as an employer, you actually stand to lose.
Wow, wow, wow! You have really hit really nails with that one hammer. The issue concerning the onus being on an employer, being on a company. That if you want to have a good employee performance, you must set the stage. And I like the way a comment that has come in from Mr. Augustus Kyoko, that this is an elephant in the room if it is not clearly defined. That if the role of the employer is not clearly defined in terms of what is the basis that you've put in place, and what is it that you're expecting from your clients, from your employees. If you have, you're expecting things to work from the air and you have not set the ground well, then you will get very poor results. That employee performance is much dependent on what the ground they set up. It's like the way you're putting it. It's like a farmer, a farmer who has decided to cultivate a piece of land. That if he has identified the piece of land, and you could look at it in a number of ways. He has identified a piece of land. This is where he wants to do his farming project. Then he's got to provide his workers, first of all, with the necessary tools and equipment. Two, he has to give them a clear idea of what he wants done on the piece of land, how he wants the crops planted, and all that kind of thing. So that by the time they enter into that farm, they have a clear idea. We are supposed to, first of all, till the land in a certain way, because we want either, when it rains, water to flow in a certain direction, or because we are planting a certain type of crop, then we need to do our cultivation in a certain way. So for you employers, business people who are listening to us, before you hire somebody, have a clear idea where your company is going. Because if you don't know where you're going, then you will end up anywhere and you will not know when you've arrived there. So that's a very good point. And
allow me, Anthony, actually to just interject there, and I think you've given a very good analogy. Yes. I think when we employ staff, or when we get new people coming to our organization, one of the things we do is give them a job description. But sometimes the job descriptions are very generic. They are very vague. It's not clear what expectations are. And sometimes I kind of feel it's like basically we have named the tasks the employee needs to do. Yes. And it's important for us to take that step further, or probably redefine the way we do our job descriptions. Take a step further, define clear expectations as an employer. Yes. Define clear deliverables as an employer, because if you don't do that and they don't perform, how then do you come back and tell me I'm not performing? Were the expectations clear? Were there deliverables that were clear? And how are we going to work towards achieving these deliverables? And then something else I keep on seeing us making a mistake, and I guess most of us have to learn as we go along, is where we decide to do evaluations once a year or evaluations twice a year. And for me, when it comes to monitoring an employee's performance, this needs to be a day-to-day activity. It needs to be a situation where, as an HOD, as an employer, you are having one-on-ones with your direct reports. This way, you actually get to monitor performance as you progress, so that it's not an issue of I've been working for a whole year and all of a sudden I'm not performing. Have we monitored how I'm performing along the way, so that again there's a clear path of my non-performance as we are moved along? Sorry. And in situations where you find my performance is being monitored on a month-to-month basis, we are having one-on-one meetings with my HOD, then you'll realize those issues I'm struggling with get addressed actually way earlier. So assume this month you have sat and you have realized I'm struggling with this area. Then we come up with measures to actually address this particular issue, so that in the next one-on-one, we can do a review. How am I doing on the issues that were raised previously? So again, we need to go back to starting looking at performance from a 1 year's event to doing it in a way that it has a meaningful impact for both the employer and the employee.
Wow. Those are very powerful points. I remember I was as you're saying that, I remember my experience in employment. One time I was working for one of the major banks around. And I remember one time I refused to sign my performance appraisal. I told my supervisor, what you're writing here is not me. I don't recognize. You've put my name there, but the stories you're giving here, that's not me. And they told me you have to sign. I told them I'm not signing. Yes. I was taken to HR. And I was told, why are you bringing problems? And I told them, no. The description that is put here is very strange to me. We have not sat and discussed my performance. You have a criteria here, adaptability, blah, 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 blah. You have put, from 1 to 5, you have put, 1 was the best, 5 was poor, and you have put 4, 5, 4, 5, 3. So I asked my supervisor, how did you come up with these figures? They say, no, this is how I look at you. I told them, no, that is not me. I remember, it was a big deal. And that was like how many? 20 plus years ago. And as you say, if appraisal is a 1 year event, and most companies unfortunately operate that way, where it's now appraisal time, probably around between this season, between September to December, is when most appraisals are done. And depending on your relationship with your supervisor, you can get glowing reports, or you can get pathetic reviews, depending on what has been said. So I like what you've said. And I like what Ted Chege has said, that we need to share the company's vision, mission, deliverables, expectations to our employees. Thank you, Ted. That is very true. The reason why the mission and vision exists, it is not something to be posted on a wall and to look good, to look like, we are going somewhere. No, that's the idea that you need to share. You as the proprietor, founder, chairman, whoever, you need to find a way to share it with your employees, so that they know this boat that we are in, called Company X, is in the sea of business, and it's being steered this way, and we are going to a certain destination, and therefore we need all hands on deck to steer in the right direction. Now,
actually, allow me to mention something on this issue of vision and mission. It goes back to also our values. And the question then again, I would ask our employers and even HR people watching us, do our employees actually share the same values as us? Do they support the agenda we are trying to drive? Because if there is no buy-in in what we do with our employees, the truth is, employees, they're in for the money. They are not in there to really drive the agenda of the business. So we need to go back and ask ourselves, have we done enough to really help our employees understand what we are doing? And do we have a buy-in from these employees? Are they supportive in the agenda that we are doing? Are they owning this company as though it was their own company? Or are they just here to make their monthly income and go away? Because if that is the case, then we will forever struggle with the issue of performance. So we need to have this buy-in. Employees need to actually love what we are doing and embrace it and want to actually deliver that product out there to our customers.
Brilliant. Actually, now what you've just said goes to my next question. How do you get a buy-in from your team members, your employees? Your employees are team members. So how do you get that buy-in from them?
I think one of the things that we need to ensure is that our team members are engaged. As we come up with our corporate strategies and goals, it's important to engage, and especially the key employees, because if you don't engage them, you just go and do some document and come back with that document. The truth is, they will struggle to actually understand what it is you're trying to do. But if you involve them from the word go, ask for their views, ask for their opinions, ask for feedback, ask for what is working, what is not working, what do you think we should be addressing to our customers, and get that feedback from them, so that even as you are coming up with your plans and with your strategies, the employee is not feeling left out and just trying to implement a document someone has just come up with, and they don't even understand what you're trying to do. So that buying from your employees is very critical. The other thing is you need to train them, coach them, help them understand what it is that you're doing. A good leader is as good as the team they lead. And we always say it all begins and falls with leadership. If as a leader you are not strong, then there's no way your team members are going to be strong. If you are not going to mentor your team members to be as good as you are, then I'm telling you as a leader you have a problem. So you actually need to mentor your team members to be actually even better than you, to be able to go out there to the client and offer better. But what happens with most of us, we don't want to be defeated. We don't want to look like our employees know better than us. So what happens? We suppress that, and we suppress those ideas and those talents that we have, instead of actually using those talents to benefit the organization. So it's important to train, coach, and mentor these employees. The other thing is you need to remember, they need to translate your goals, and they're the ones who are going to translate your vision into actually actionables. When you look at your middle level management, I mean, in organizations, we have different layers of management, and depends on how the organization is structured. So if you're in the executive and there's middle level management and lower cadre employees, you have to realize you're dealing with the middle level managers. So you need to actually be in a position where you cascade down your plans to the middle level managers, to the place where they have a buy-in, they understand fully well what it is that we are doing as a company, and they know how we're going to implement this. This way, then they will translate it now to the smaller objectives and to actionables, which is now cascaded down to the team members who are on the floor, who are actually getting the actual job done. A lot of times, actually, the people who do the real job sometimes happen to be the people on the lower cadre. But how do we actually now break it down to where they are, so that whatever they are doing, it what builds up actually to the overall deliverables for the organization?
Wow, those are powerful points. Yes, I'm seeing comments are coming thick and fast. Margaret Bai is wondering, how did I have the courage? I said I was arguing with my superior, not HR. HR would have put me in from the boiling pot to the fire. So, uh, so yeah. But I was talking with my immediate superior, as in, why is this happening? And you will find this happening in organizations. I can tell you right now, when companies that have decided to put performance appraisal and bring structure to their, employee performance measurement, these kind of discussions will be there. Somebody will feel, you know what, you're writing that way because you've measured me this way because of you don't like me personally, and those are things that companies will have to navigate. Caleb Wanjala, my old friend, thank you for your post. You are saying that if a company's mission and vision is vague, then you will transfer the same to your employees. That is very true. You've got to have a very clear mission and vision as to where you're going. There's one company, I will not mention its name here, where I'm told, not I'm told, I worked there for a while, and the CEO, we met you on the lift and ask you, young man, what's your name? You tell him your name and he tell you, what is the mission of our company? My friend, if you start stammering, you might be told to go and visit HR to calculate your dues. you know. Okay, well, they're trying to inculcate it, but at the time I thought that is more, what's the word? That is instilling fear. It's not done out of the joy of participating and enjoying, what you're doing, enjoying being part of that company. Now,
Anthony, if you allow me actually to respond to that comment from Margaret, you must have been very brave to argue with the Itagos this, as they always had the last word.
That's true.
Unfortunately, sometimes and in some organizations, you find this still happens, where you find, like you're saying, the objectives are not very clear, deliverables are not very clear, and an employee is evaluated and told they're not performing. Now, if this was to be brought to me as an HR, I need to actually look at it from the point of where are we missing the point? Because it looks like we have a challenge here, because if the employee is saying, I honestly don't understand what is being said here, it means actually the objectives were not set in the first place. It means there has not been consistent conversations between the employee and the manager to understand how they are doing, how they are faring on, are they delivering or are they not delivering? So it actually tells me we have a challenge. And from an HR front, I actually need to look at that and see, how do we address these challenges? Is it an issue of we need to train our managers how they need to handle employee performance issues? Do we need to train them how do they do one-on-one? And some of these things, we take them for granted and we assume that actually managers understand. But the truth is we need to actually take initiative and train them, help them understand, coach them. A lot of managers don't know how to deal with employee issues. We need to do HR for non-HR managers, for our middle level managers who are having to handle all these employees. So there's a lot that actually you can pick from this and make it, come up with a solution for the company. The other question Caleb has asked would be, do we as employers know how our fine mandate, the vagueness in our mission, is easily transferred into our employees? Again, and this is a very true comment. A lot of times we came up with some vision and mission when we were registering a business, simply because we were trying to get business. But most of us have not sat down to really think, what is really our mission, our vision, and how do we have a mission that translates to our vision? Does this really translate to who we are as an organization, so that we actually remove that vagueness and it's very clear, there's a very clear understanding of what we are trying to achieve. So again, for business people, it's important to relook at our mission, our vision, and see, does it really address what we do or who we are in the first place? Then that way it will be very easy to actually translate it down to the employees.
Wow. Actually, another comment by my friend Douglas Nyamori, you've actually answered what Douglas is saying. In there, he's saying there is great need to train management. This is one of the gaps. Actually, you've answered what Douglas is saying, that there is need to train HR to non-HR managers. That if you're evaluating somebody, are you trained to evaluate your team members, or you're evaluating concerning your prejudices, your thinking, your feeling, whatever it is that you're thinking would work? For you to evaluate somebody, what is the platform you're using? What are you using to evaluate? Do you know how to do the evaluation yourself? Don't you need to be trained before you do evaluate others? Mr. Nyamori, thanks for that. Thank you for that comment.
Again, Anthony, allow me to actually interject again on that comment from Douglas. Performance management is indeed a component in the successful running of an organization. There's a great need to train management. This is probably one of the gaps. Now, when we talk of the management, I would actually address it from the top executive management. From my experience and interaction with many executives, has been sometimes they actually don't even understand performance in the first place. Okay? And I think this is actually where the failure begins, because if they themselves don't understand performance, then it becomes very difficult to actually bring it down to where the employees are. And I find sometimes they sit there at the top, they expect employees to perform, but them themselves don't actually understand what objectives are we really setting. They don't, and sometimes I don't know whether it is because as executives, sometimes we are too busy, we don't have the time. We don't want to spend the time having those one-on-one meetings with our direct reports. Because you have to remember, even the top executive, they have their direct reports. So
Yes.
how are you supervising your direct reports? They might be managers who are actually very well versed in what they are doing. But even those, how do they know they are actually performing in the organization?
Okay.
You have to sit down with them. You have to actually say what your clear expectations and deliverables are. Then that way, it becomes very easy for that actually to trickle down. So we cannot just leave management of performance to middle level managers. We need to actually start it from the top. I remember in many organizations where I have had to deal with issues of performance, where the top executive actually will think the issue of performance management is the HR who needs to actually deal with it. It's the HR who needs to come up with deliverables, KPIs for the different people in the organization. And and I've differed with them and I've said, you know what, it's not HR. HR is an enabler. HR is a person who will drive the process. But the process owners have to be the heads of those departments. So again, we start from the top, and I like drawing a triangle where I say, it starts from the top, where the top says, this is our objectives. Then bring it down to the middle level managers, and bring it down to the level of the employees. That way, everyone takes responsibility for their own performance, including the management. So yes, I actually agree with Douglas that there is need to actually train the top management on performance issues.
Awesome. Keep the comments coming. We appreciate them. You can see some of the comments, are generating even, a healthy conversation that we're having today. And now, another question that I would want to ask: what about employee abilities when it comes to performance issues? I'm gifted in a certain area, or my qualification is in certain my qualifications, my giftings in a particular area. Now, is that taken into consideration when looking at the performance criteria?
When we look at employees' abilities and capabilities, it takes me back to the process of our recruitment. And I know we discussed about recruitment a while back.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't recruit well. And in the process, you realize an employee doesn't have the capabilities, doesn't have the capacity to perform, or doesn't have the capacity to get that job delivered. That is not to mean actually you should fire that employee, because I believe anyone can be trained to be what you want them to be, unless completely they cannot be helped. But it makes me again question our recruitment. Did we hire right? When we were recruiting, what were we looking for? Did we address those issues when we were doing the recruitment? Most of us, and again, HRs have been accused of this, where we don't recruit competitively, where I bring in someone I know or someone who knows someone simply because there are some sort of affiliations. So we need to go back to our hiring processes. In the first place, was a role very clearly defined for us even to start the recruitment process. So we start from there. Is the functionality of this position very well defined? So once that is very well defined, then we move to actually now the process of having to recruit and start looking at what are the qualities we are looking for the person we want to fit in this position. I've seen situations where a candidate fares very well during an interview, but they get to the actual job and they are actually struggling in delivery. And again, you have to realize we have online programs that help us come up with very good CVs. We have some of us who have very good communication skills, and we will come and woo everyone in the interview table. But now when it comes to fitting in the organization, you find this a struggle. So we need to reevaluate, how do we recruit people? How do we induct people into our organizations? And how do we fit them into our culture for them to start understanding this is how we work, this is how we operate, and these are the expectations of the organization. So again, to employers and HRs, goes back to our recruiting processes.
Okay, so what you're saying is the employee you may get a recruit whom you have interviewed and seen their capabilities. So your recruitment process has to be very, sharp-ended. It has to be very on point in terms of finding a way to sieve beneath the charm, beneath the glowing references, the certificates, to be able to draw out the real person who is applying for this job, and also have a clear template in the back of your mind of the role that they're supposed to play and the kind of person as a recruiter you are looking to hire. That then once you have a clear want to hire, and then you get in mind the kind of candidate, then you merge them together to be able to see, is this person fitting for the job that we are hiring? So now there's something about the abilities that you've said that I want to bring in. Let's assume you've hired somebody. They are for an accounting position, okay? And they meet all the requirements. The qualifications are good, their personality is good, their references are good, they have accepted the pay. Once you've hired them as a team, you realize that this person is probably beyond the accountancy, he's probably also good in marketing. He's probably good in sales. He probably has a background in IT. So when you candidate, can you find a way to appreciate the extra capabilities that they have beyond what the job descriptions show?
I think, yes, it's important to appreciate those extra capabilities an employee would have. But also the other thing that I like saying we need to look at with any person we are hiring, or even our current employees, is to first find, are they in the correct role in the first place? Because I could be doing accounting, but I'm doing accounting because that is what my parents pushed me to do in school. But my passion is actually in marketing. If you put me in marketing, then I will actually do more better than being in an accounting position. So it's also important for us to also analyze in terms of the interests our employees have beyond the skill sets they have. What are their interests? Will they be able to perform better in another role as opposed to actually being in this other role? And once we establish that, then we support them and put them through different training programs. Because, like I've said, an employee will be good if you invest in them. If they have the basic characteristics and qualities of a good employee, you'll be able to train and mentor them to be what you want them to be. So it's also important for us to look at our assets, who are employees, and say, this person is actually very good in customer service. Then why are we putting them behind a desk? Yeah, they can do very well when they're interacting with our customers. So, of course, we need to look at those extra capabilities and appreciate them and see what it is that we can do to mentor them.
All right. Wow. This discussion is really good. Our time has flown it has really flown. I mean, it's just a few minutes ago we were beginning. So as we come to a close of our program today, we can wind up by reminding ourselves that the issue of employee performance, where do we begin? We begin from the place of, as an employer, as a business person, as a manager, define who you are. Define what the company is all about. Define where you're going. And then put your recruitment process, make sure that it is sharp and spot on to be able to hire the right kind of people. And once they are in, then train them. Train them to do their jobs better. Remember to also focus on your mid-level and top-level management, so that when they are appraising the performance, they themselves know what they're doing, what they are praising. And then obviously give clear job descriptions to your employees, so that they can be able to know what they're being evaluated upon. And therefore, if you bring it all down together, you have an organization that, first of all, is very clear of where it's going. It has trained executives who not only are they managing themselves, but they're also managing the teams beneath them. And you have employees who are motivated because they're working for a company that knows where it's going. They have managers who care about their career growth, and everything is flowing smoothly. Now, for those who are listening to us, if you'd like to understand more about Aurum Consultants does. You can get in touch via email, consult@aurumconsultants.co.ke. And as you can see, we also do we have several services that we offer: outsourcing, we offer trainings, we offer recruitment, we offer, we offer audits, we offer risk advisory. You can get in touch with us if you would like us to assist you in your business. So for today, I'd like to ask you for a final comment as we come to a close. What will you say?
What I will say is, as employers, as HRs, let's ensure that our employees actually understand what our expectations are to them, what the deliverables are, and let's make it an effort to do a continuous assessment. Let's move from the habits of having to do performance as a one-off end of the year activity, or to settle scores with our employees. Let's do this with a purpose and to achieve an end goal. And how do we achieve this end goal? Is by knowing what it is that is expected of us to start with from the executive and cascading that down to the employees.
All right. Thank you very much. Log in next week, same time, same place, as we continue discussing further issues that relate to the HR field, HR and risk advisory field. Thank you very much.
Oops.